This is just a short video to show you Judy's Magic Cast On, which is a cast on used for knitting toe-up socks. There are other uses for it, but we're showing you how to do it for a pair of slippers, actually a pair of toe-up slippers, my pattern Tess, a pair of stranded slippers, and then we're going to make a little video showing you how to knit the toe of the stranded slippers. But first of all, this is Judy's Magic Cast On. For the stranded slippers Tess, we need 15 stitches on each of 2 needles, and we're using a circular needle for this. Circular needles really are best for this technique because once you finish the cast on, you can pull one needle through so that half of the stitches are sitting on a cable, which makes it much more flexible and much easier to knit into the first set of stitches. So we start with a yarn, going from the ball of yarn. You take the yarn over your finger, the first finger, and also take the yarn over your thumb so that the tail of yarn is hanging over your thumb, and you need enough yarn hanging over your thumb. You need to pull a bit over to make some stitches on your needle, because each yarn, the ball yarn and the tail yarn, is going to be forming stitches in this cast on. And then take your 2 needles, each end of your cable needle, so both the needles on your cable needle, and to make the first stitch, take the top needle down into the space between the yarn and the crook of your hand, between your thumb and your finger, the crook there, and lift the yarn up from there, and then twist the needle round to form a loop, a twisted loop on that top needle, and then that's your first stitch. Then the second stitch, in Judy's Magic Cast On, you need to alternate the needles. So now we've got one on the top needle, we need a stitch on the bottom needle. So Mary, would you take that bottom needle, and it goes down behind the finger yarn to pick it up from underneath. So you go down behind it and then pick it up from underneath. So that's now the first stitch on the bottom needle. And remember, we're alternating needles, so now we need a next stitch on the top needle, and it's the same movement. It goes down behind the thumb yarn, just that needle, so the bottom needle doesn't go down behind the thumb yarn, but the top needle does, and then it picks up a stitch. And then you just keep alternating those 2 movements, down behind the finger yarn and then down behind the thumb yarn, alternating the needles. And the rule is always that the top needle goes to the bottom yarn, the thumb yarn, and the bottom needle goes to the top yarn, the finger yarn, to pick up the stitches. And always each needle goes down behind the yarn and picks it up by going underneath the yarn. And Mary's just slowly doing this to demonstrate the movement. It's very fluid movement once this is practiced. And I hope you're counting as you go, Mary, and we're going to stop when we've got 15. And of course, because we started with a stitch on the top needle, our last stitch will be on the bottom needle. How many is that now, Mary?
11, I think, now.
Just count through them. 15, and that's 15 stitches, so that's Judy's Magic Cast On. Now, if you've seen this done in a different way, with the needles picking up the yarn slightly differently, that's because we've developed a way of doing this that makes sure that the stitches sit on the needle in such a way that they're mounted the correct way to be knitted in the normal manner in the first round. Some of the techniques, videos for this show the stitches picked up in such a way that one of the needles, the stitches have to be knitted through the back loop in order not to be twisted. And that's just because of the direction of the wrap, the way the yarn is wrapped. We've got it wrapping the same way on both needles so that all those stitches will be knitted through the front loop in the regular manner in the first round. Okay, thank you very much everyone. That's Judy's Magic Cast On for toe-up socks and slippers.